Music for All is proud to sponsor Bandstand. At Music for All, we're about providing positively life-changing experiences. Join us with your marching band at Bands of America or with your concert ensemble at the Music for All National Festival. Students can audition for our honor ensembles or attend camp at the Music for All Summer Symposium, featuring the Sweetwater Director Academy, an amazing week of professional development for directors led by Dr. Nola Jones. Learn more at musicforall.org.
Romeo Music is the leader in audio, video, music, and lighting technology for educators. With a combined nearly 200 years of experience, Romeo Music's subject matter experts understand the struggles that face teachers in today's music classrooms. With a laser focus on educational technology, Romeo Music provides a turnkey solution, everything from audio cables to on-site training. To learn more, visit www.romeomusic.net.
Hello, and welcome to Bandstand, the official podcast of the Tennessee Bandmasters Association. I'm your host, David Adelit, and I hope you'll join us on a journey through the past, present, and future of bands in Tennessee. We'll delve into the rich history of Tennessee bands, uncovering the hidden gems and legendary figures who shaped the state's band landscape. We'll survey the present, where you'll meet the movers and shakers of today, gaining insights from their expertise and experiences. And we'll gaze towards the future, exploring the exciting possibilities that await Tennessee's school bands. Okay, we're on with Benjamin Martin. Benjamin is the director of bands at Huntingdon High School over in West Tennessee. And Benjamin gave a great session at TMEA last week called Small Band No Problem. And I attended this, and I was very happy to hear his information and thought it might be good for a podcast session. Small bands that's what I come from. I went to Hickman County High School, and when I first started teaching, I had a small band. And there are so many schools across the state that could use this information, Benjamin. So I think you're the president of WTSBOA. Is that right now? Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Good. Thank you for all the work that goes into that. I know it's a tremendous amount of work on your part outside of your normal job. But Benjamin, let's hear your story. Just tell us your background before we get into this great topic.
Okay. I'm originally from McKenzie, Tennessee. That is located in Carroll County. If any of you've heard of Bethel University, that's the city that it's located in. We were, considered a small band then. And then once I graduated high school there, I went and did my undergraduate work at the University of Tennessee at Martin and studied with Nancy Matheson and Julie Hill. And then I went on to get my master's at the University of Central Arkansas, studied with Blake Tyson, and any Scottie Pippen fans out there, they know that's where he went to school. And then I found my way into an assistant band director position at Liberty Tech Magnet School in Jackson, Tennessee. And I taught there for 7 years, and then an opportunity came about, kind of accidentally, but it came about where I could come back to Carroll County and teach at McKenzie's rival school, Huntington. And I'm in my 8th year here, and I've been enjoying it ever since. Small program, but I'm proud of that because when I first, it's interesting that we talk about small bands. One of the first things that when I was interviewed that my administrator said was quality over quantity, and I thought, okay, this is going to be a good fit. Quality over quantity, and so we've been rocking it ever since. So that's kind of me in a nutshell as far as professionally.
And your band plays really well at Concert Festival, right?
Yes,
and you've
sir.
played some really advanced literature, and I've seen your marching band several times. It's always very good. I remember the first time I saw you was in 2019 when Division I was indoors in the Riverdale gym, and I was blown away at the levels of dynamics that your group played with. The attention to detail in terms of dynamics was incredible. And that's been, 5 years, and I still remember it now to this day. So you're obviously doing some really good work there, teaching those kids how to play. And that's one of the reasons this is going to be a great session, because you've got the knowledge and the expertise to back it up.
Thank you.
Benjamin, what made you think about doing this session in the first place?
Well, there were several several things that I talked about that really made me think about it. And one of the things I will say I forgot was just self reflection too. I should have put that on there, but
Mm,
I had a conversation with Dr. Armand Hall, who was at University of Memphis backstage at our All West convention, and we were talking about small groups, and he's taught. Believe he was mentioning one of the whole suites. And he said small bands deserve to play that great lit too. They need to be exposed to great literature and be able to play great literature. Just because they're small, you can make it work. And that always stuck with me. And then,
mm,
as as the years go, I saw this one small group who got a new director, and this group had improved. They played. It was on a marching band field, and I saw them play, and I thought, man, this group is really improved with this new director. They had a great trumpet player, and warning people, I'm not bashing trumpet players here. I may refer to them a lot, but I'm not bashing them. And
good.
this is a
I
great
am one.
trumpet. uh, Trumpet player.
Well, thanks, everybody. This has been a great podcast.
He was a great player, and I was like, all right, he's doing a good job carrying the melody in the first song. The second song came, he still had the melody. Third song came, he was worn out, and I just thought, man, 7.5 minutes of trumpet solo. That kid's doing the best he's got, but it's not going to work. And then another instance I saw, and I titled it "Drumline is King," and it really refers a little bit to the marching aspect side of it. If you've got a few wins, let's say 12 or 20 wins, and you've got a big drum line or 4 bass drums, 3 bass drums, 2 snares, and a tenor, and you're bringing them up in front and blocking your wins, you're not going to recover. Plus, it just looks awkward in the transition. And then
Yes.
the last thing, and this was really I'd already been accepted, but I thought it was important, and I hope he doesn't mind me mentioning his group. I got the chance to observe Ben Easley at Nolensville, and fantastic program, fantastic group. I saw 3 of the groups, all of them were great, and we sometimes forget that the great groups they get in there and they dig and they have some of the same problems all directors have, and I called John easily, and I was like, man, yeah, it's kind of uplifting to see that someone else goes through the same things I do. And he said this quote: "A band room is a band room." And that just stuck
Mm.
with me. We're all going through the same thing, so that kind of got the wheels turning on it, for that, for this session at least.
I hope we get to come back to that whole big drum line, small horn line topic. And maybe that's not in this podcast. Maybe it's in another one. But so I saw a lot of that this past year. And just while we're here,
Yeah,
it's all in the writing. It's all in the writing. Like, it's not just drumline play softer. Like Nola Jones says this, that's coming out on the episode that comes out tomorrow. It's not just drumline play softer. It's the parts need to be written in a way that makes the whole ensemble sound good. You can't have
absolutely.
unison bass drums during the woodwind feature or whatever. It's the writing is so critical to the success of your group. So, what do you hope everybody gets out of this?
I hope that they understand that large and small programs, they're going through the same thing. Good sounds
Hmm.
or good sounds. Both sizes have to do the same thing as far as that. And then, I kind of wanted to give some ideas that could help. Not everything's going to be ideal uh, for each situation, so you got to kind of adapt. And then just some things that people should avoid, like, for instance, small wins, large drum line. Don't bring them up to the front, or no trumpet heroes, or whatever your forte is. And I am a percussionist,
Yeah.
so I guess we're even now.
Well, I hope it's something that I hope this is beneficial to folks because I think the content's really good. So the first thing you really went into heavy here was fundamentals. Fundamentals matter. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Oh, absolutely. And some of this comes from self-reflection. We'd see somebody like, oh man, how come I'm not getting it? And we may compare it to a larger group, say, well, they're getting away with it. And I would go back and listen to tapes and be like, we didn't sound as good as what I thought. I need to get down, like, why I mentioned I was a percussionist. Why does my horns not sound great? Why do my winds not sound great? Fundamentals matter, and that's something that all great directors do, and it's something you shouldn't skip. All right. If either whether you're doing something, I think I mentioned, and I'm having to tweak it now because we're getting a new schedule next school year, and I'm already thinking ahead. Okay, I can do this, but then I got to do this. So maybe you do something. For instance, maybe you work rhythm on Monday, Wednesday, Friday this week, and Tuesday, Thursday you add a scale study to your scale exercise or something. Just being creative with it. But
Hmm.
I mentioned some things, and one thing I think has been really vital to our program, especially this year, is singing every day. Um, whether it's on a syllable, whether it is on numbers, I am using solfege this year. I do like it. I talked to some people about it, and they mentioned that it does help with some of the tuning and intonation on uh, certain syllables. It makes it where it's not as flat or sharp. So sing every day, and I'll tell you something that really helps. If you have a um a piece of music, maybe like we're doing this summer was just beginning now. We take that horn part and we sing it on syllables, and that if you do that in your warm up, it's getting it in their head. It's getting it where they can hear it in their head as they play, and it helps with intonation. Um, I'm a big believer, and it is a process that, especially high schoolers, you have to stay on with them about the shape of their mouth when they sing, because you get a lot of them that wants to do this, oh, and it's
Yep.
like, guys, you got to open up. You got to open up and sing. Um, that was one thing that I think is very crucial. Long tones, you know, whether it's a Remington exercise or um, we one thing I like to do is I like to build chords. So we'll build, for instance, when we first start, we build a B flat chord, major chord, and I keep it simple where root is on the bottom. My low brass plays B flat, and then the middles play D, and then my high instruments play F. And you can mix it up depending. But then, we work minor chords and then diminish and augmented. Then we learn all the seventh chords, and we go around the circle of fourths. And to make it fun, I may put on a funky drum beat behind it while we're playing. Um,
Yep.
and like I said, I may not do that every day because it gets long. So I may do a Remington, which is shorter. But you want to focus on, good quality sounds and breath support in that. I think buzzing should be done every day, whether it's a short exercise or you know maybe if it's a part of the music or something. Some kind of buzzing and lip slurring is crucial.
Yeah.
And I mentioned
I agree with
several
you on
other
the lip
things.
slur thing.
Yeah.
I'm not a big buzz guy, but
Mm.
lip slurs all the time. Yes.
Yes.
All
And
over the horn,
and
all over the overtone series.
yeah, I usually what I do, I have a lip slur exercise. We buzz it the first time and then put the mouthpiece in and play it.
Yep.
Finger dexterity, it can be a chromatic scale or something that's passage. Now I'm using the Habits for a Successful Musician, and they use that with the lip slurs, so it's kind of two
Mhm.
for one. So um, rhythm, I think rhythm is something I hear a lot of professors say. They get to college and they can't count and read rhythms. I'm like, oh, I'm a percussionist, so I love doing that, so let's do that.
Yeah.
Let's do that. The problem is
And
finding
there's
the time, and that's
well, that's what I want to ask you about
mhm,
time, because I think I was in this camp. So I at the end of my career, the last 10 years at Franklin and at Siegel too, I was as exactly like you're describing here. Fundamentals, fundamentals, fundamentals. I was not that way before. I was the all right, let's just start working on the music guy. And what I found was there was a ceiling. I could only get the level of clarity in the ensemble to a certain level without the kids having the training they needed to play with great sounds in all registers and dynamics and articulations and all circumstances. And once I began to spend time on fundamentals like you're describing here, suddenly the final product kept getting better and better and better. And so we did more fundamentals, and the ratio changed. The more fundamentals I did, the better the group sounded, and the more I did them. And the kids, you have to be, and I think this is my question for you. When you started this focus, how hard was it to get the kids to buy into this? Because you have to be a little bit of a salesperson with fundamentals. It's like making your child eat vegetables and not dessert.
uh, well, honestly, when I transitioned to Huntington, and I had started doing it at Liberty Tech. I was assistant for 6 years, and the last year I was head director. And then I started doing some of those things that I was talking about. But when I got into Huntington, it was kind of like a clean slate. So I just kind of went into that and
Mm.
just was like, all right, guys, look, and I would say you see great bands, when we go to a competition or concert festival, hey guys, you see these great groups, this is what they're doing. You want to be like
Hmm.
them? Buy into it. Show them a drum corps. At least get them exposed and say, "Hey guys, look, they spend time on these exercises." Now, granted, it's a little bit more eccentric than what I'm making it out to be, but they spend time on fundamentals. I said, guys, you've got to be able, you know. Sorry, I'm kind of diverging here, but I think I used the illustration. Whoever your favorite, I'm a baseball fan. I love the Atlanta Braves, but Ronald Acuna Jr. right now is one of the best players in the game, and every day he hits off a tee. He goes
Yep.
back to fundamentals, working on his swing, working proper swing, taking everything slow, making sure it's right for when he gets into the game. He's prepared. And I just think that's crucial. And I like you said, you got to sell it. Like, hey guys, you want to be the best. You got to do these fundamentals. Um, that was my kind of. I guess that's how I kind of transitioned into that.
Two things. One, I started this at Franklin, and that was I love football. Football is my favorite sport. I would have been a high school football coach in another life. And I read a book on Vince Lombardi, Vince Lombardi, I don't know if people know this, he was an excellent algebra teacher when he taught high school. So he taught high school, then he taught college, and then he went to the Packers. Well, then he worked for the Giants for a long time, and then he went to the Packers as head coach. He was, as an algebra teacher, he would not move on to the next skill until every kid in the room understood the step that they were working on. He would not move on. He was absolutely relentless. And I think people sometimes think that what happens is that kids will get bored with that. But what happens is it turns into sort of a team mentality. Suddenly now everybody wants to be able to master that skill in algebra or master that ability or that skill in your band class. It becomes like a team thing, and everybody's motivation begins to be a little bit more focused. And you actually begin to get this momentum that's pretty incredible. And the other thing is that he would say every year when the Packers would win the World Championship or the Super Bowl, the first 2 years, the Super Bowl, the first day of training camp the next year, he would stand in front of the players and say, he would hold up a football and say, "Gentlemen, this is a football." And the Green Bay Packers, who had just won the Super Bowl or the whatever, were starting at absolute ground zero every time. They didn't start with half the playbook installed. They started at step one. And if they can do that, then certainly my band at Franklin could do that, or Siegel, either one. So I think people just want to skip those steps. But what you find is when you don't skip the steps, you get there in the long run. You go further in the long run.
Absolutely. You've said that. That made me think of my kids. A lot of times they're willing to help someone and you know, talk about some of those things like, hey, you sound really closed and pinched. Do you got a gap in your teeth? Are you making a proper shape? Which is it's very, very cool to watch kids do that because they buy into it like you were talking about and supporting each other, and they know that we've got to skip. We can't. Excuse me. We can't skip these fundamentals if we want to get to the next step.
Yeah.
I will say. Oh, there. Sorry, I'm kind of backtracking. Another thing, and it's from Habits of Successful Musicians. By the way, I'm not endorsed by them. It's just the book I'm using now.
Not yet.
Yeah. Oh,
maybe after
yeah.
this podcast.
they use the whole tone scale, and that was new to me. And I started using this book last year, and I read about it. It talks about how kids can play in the middle range fairly well, and what it does is it takes the whole tone scale. It starts in the middle, and it starts expanding up, and then comes back down to your comfort range, and it goes low, comes back, and it's moving. It's another viable source to use for long tones. Is it the best thing to listen to? No, but it's a good viable source to use.
Yeah.
Because, if you do, you got to mix it up a little bit. You could still, and that's the thing everyone's got to understand. Slurs, you can do slurs, but mix it up a little bit, change rhythm up, change the key. We do an
Yep.
articulation exercise from the book, which I recommend doing every day. A lot of times, if we have a scale that we're focusing on, we transpose it to that scale, and mix it up. Now, do we have to take a few minutes and say,
Yep.
"All right, guys, we're transposing first 5 notes of that scale"? Boom. All right, we got it. Now play it and let's do it. You know.
It doesn't take a lot to create. It doesn't take a lot to create some variety for kids.
Mhm.
You don't have to dress up in a clown costume to make it interesting. You can just, if you're doing Remingtons, instead of it doing unison, do it in split fourths or fifths.
Yes, absolutely.
Or invert it. There's ways to provide some variety and still accomplish the same thing and make it interesting for the kids and get them thinking a little bit. You talked about transposition. That's awesome because that makes them think. They have to be mentally acute. They have to be really mentally aware for that to jump through all those hoops of transposition. So it doesn't take that much to make even fundamental time interesting.
And talking about long tones and building chords to make it interesting. Sometimes I'll mix up like, all right, trumpets. And I'll pick someone out of the trumpet section. What chord do you want to play? And I have a rule. Whenever I have a guest or someone, you do not pick B flat concert. I'm like, that's
Yeah.
basic. That's what we start on. No, we're not being boring. And and there's a running joke they get shunned if they pick that. They don't get picked again. But sometimes they'll say, okay, we want to play a flat major chord. I'm like, all right, that's fine. All right, horns. What do you want the trumpets to play? And I let them pick the group, or I may let them pick
That's
what
so
they want to
smart.
play. And then I ask them. I like, for instance, if the low brass, if they're playing the fifth, I'm like, all right, what inversion are we playing? I tried that this year. I got
Mm.
them talking inversions, and so that's kind of cool, and just mixing it up, you know. Um, and I also recommend chorales. I'm a fan of chorales. I think they warm up the muscles. I think they warm up your ear. Plus, they're beautiful, hopefully. And to add variety on that, on Fridays, seniors get to pick the chorale. And sometimes they pick the hardest ones, and I'm just like, oh no! But I let them do it, and they get to conduct it. They pick it and they conduct it,
Mm.
and it's
I
fun.
love that.
It's fun because you'll see that the kids, even though that the senior may not know, they get nervous being in front of the group. The kids will bail them out. 9 times
Hmm.
out of 10, the kids will bail them out, and it's really cool.
Odds are they become a better ensemble player too after they stand in front of the group.
Yeah, and I'm a big
Yeah.
fan for writing your exercises too. For if you
Hmm.
have a rhythm that's dominant. I'm actually talking about 2019 show. We played the Psycho Suite in it from the movie Psycho, and when we got to when we were in warm ups, we would sing the rhythm on syllables, and then we played on concert F, and then when we got to the music, boom, we applied it. Big fan of that, and dynamics are the same way too. You know, so I think doing that and just making it fun and adding variety is important. I can't preach enough. You'll never hear, like you were talking about Vince Lombardi, you'll never hear a great coach say, well, we're doing too many fundamentals.
Hmm.
You'll have a basketball player staying after to shoot free throws, dribbling, it just comes down. Fundamentals are so important. And, you know, looking back at self reflection, hearing my group and thinking, well, they're small, that's why we're not winning. And then I go back and listen, you know what? I didn't teach these kids properly how to make a great sound on their instrument. That's on me. Boom. Fundamentals. Get down there, guys. We're going to polish fundamentals. And I spend more when band camp comes around. I spend a lot more time on it. The fundamentals, guys. Good sounds. Oh, we're not going on. Boom. And we talk about different attacks too. So hopefully that's enough or hopefully that gives a good idea of fundamentals. Can you think of anything I might have missed,
Yep.
or
I have
you
one more
recommend?
question.
Yep.
So, if you have an hour rehearsal at the beginning of a concert cycle, like when you're starting to get ready for CPA, out of an hour, how much fundamental time are you going to do on day one of the concert cycle?
I'm going to be longer. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be longer. I'll probably, an hour. I would say I have a tendency of being a little long. I'll be 30, 35 minutes just until, and then I phase it out. to where we're doing
Yeah.
specific warm ups where it's like, okay, guys, I'll do most of the things that we talked about. Now I may have to, like, for instance, I may do rhythm on Monday and then not do it on Tuesday, just because I've got to
Yeah.
cycle some things. Um, and that's hard for me because I want to do it all every day. But I'm learning that,
Yeah.
hey, you got to mix up, and it helps the kid. I think it's better for the kids, adds variety.
Yeah.
And then as we get closer, and like we've got a concert coming up this Sunday, and I'm going to try to really be quick with my warm ups because I want to hit a lot of music. So I may try to do 15 to 20. I'm going to time it tomorrow, and just good warm up, good sounds, tuning. Sometimes I get stuck on tuning a little bit.
Yeah.
It just depends. And I will say a lot of times tuning, it takes a minute to adjust for tuning, you know, but that gets quicker.
And then, yeah, as you train them, it doesn't take as long to kind of get through those elements of your warm up.
Yes.
As you get closer to the concert, they already kind of understand the routine, and so they're chunking information out of their brain when you ask for something, and it just goes a lot quicker. So you can still hit fundamentals. Like if we were going to concert festival, we're still doing concert F at the beginning of
Yes, absolutely.
our training session. Like we're not skipping that, and the kids just understand how to get that information and retrieve it really quickly.
I would say sometimes I like to use not necessarily. Sometimes I use a backing track, that drum set track, and I use that. It's the time, and we don't stop. I'm like, all right, now if there's a catastrophe, yeah, we're going to stop. But if it's warming up and we're like, okay, lip slurs are going good, here we go, boom, keep going, 8 clicks, next exercise, 6, 7,
Mhm.
8, and go. That helps pacing too.
Abraham Lincoln, there's a quote, I don't know if it's him or not, but it's attributed to him. It says something like, if I have 3 hours to chop down a tree, I'm going to spend the
Yeah,
first 2 sharpening the axe.
absolutely.
And
Yeah,
that for me like encapsulates this whole concept of really spending time with warm up and training. One year at Franklin, we were at Grand Nationals and we were warming up next to Carmel. They're pretty good, and their entire warm up was playing concert F.
really, that's cool. Wow. Now I
It
will
was the
say
most incredible thing.
I would like to see that. I wonder if there's a YouTube video. I would really like to see that.
Yeah. Guess who won music that night? It wasn't us. It was Carmel. Like those kids understood. Like if you can get a whole bunch of high school kids to blend concert F with great sound and great pitch, you can pretty much do anything with them. If you can get them to be that detailed on one note, then that mentality of being that conscientious, you could play anything. You know what I mean? When you get them to that
Absolutely.
level. So that was the big lesson I learned that day, was
Now,
just how much time there and how those kids were so devoted to it. It was great.
and I will say I do, and I didn't mention it, but I start every rehearsal. That's the first thing we warm up on is a concert F. And as much as it warms them up, as far as like just opening them up, it really helps with watching your conductor and responding to the conductor as well. Like someone said that, he's like, well, it's really kind of warming them up to you too, and that flipped a light switch. I was like, huh. So then I started trying different things when I gave them the note, and they responded. So it's warm up is for them and it's for you. On the articulation exercises, I'm actually practicing my conducting in it. Trying to give them what the paper's saying, and for me, that's been beneficial too. I'm not the best conductor, just FYI. So, but I try to get better at it as they're trying to improve. I'm trying to improve. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
That's a good lesson for them too. And I'm sure you're a good conductor.
Ooh,
Let's talk about choosing literature.
okay.
This is a topic near and dear to my heart.
First thing, don't play every hard piece you've ever wanted to play on a concert.
Yeah, don't play music you like.
Yep. Don't. Yeah.
That would
Yeah.
be what I would say first.
Well, we've all made that mistake. It's something I have to study. The first thing I would recommend is play to your strengths. And by play to your strengths, know your ensemble, and know that, you got to think, okay, I'm going to use a different instrument, a great flute player. Your flute player cannot cannot carry the ensemble for a field show or for a concert, but they can help you get through it. So you've got to know what areas of strength each sections have and what they can do. Okay, now can you choose literature that's going to improve the ensemble, maybe expand some of it? Absolutely. You may not want to take it to CPA, but uh, I think you've just got to keep a practical approach. You should play pieces that you like, but not that's out of that's if your favorite. Well, let me put it this way. Right now, there's some pieces by Omar Thomas that I really want to play. My instrumentation and some of the difficulty in the piece is right now it's just a little bit too advanced for my group.
Yeah.
I'm waiting to a better day to play that, and that's okay. Patience is something I feel like I'm fairly good at, but despite what some people say, but you want to play pieces that your ensemble can handle, and then
Yeah.
I think it's important to play whole
Masterworks.
masterworks. Yeah, yes. My kids have played both whole suites uh, before. I think that's important. How do we do it?
Yeah.
Well, on one of them we played a side by side concert with UTM, and I said
Smart.
that's a win win for everybody. It really is. It's a win win because one, it's a recruitment for them. Two, your group's going to sound phenomenal. Both groups are going to sound great. Three, your kids are going to get to hear a better player right beside them. And I think
Mhm.
that is very important. When you hear someone that's better than you, like you were talking about with Franklin, they're going to improve. We, of course, I know you were there, the Knoxville concert on Wednesday night at TMEA. I walked out of there thinking,
Mhm.
man, this is fantastic. I'm so glad I got to listen to it. It made me a better. I felt like I was a better educator just walking out of there because I was like, oh, I got exposed to this. This is some great stuff. The sounds were
Yep.
great. So yeah, and and you could play a little bit more advanced lit with a college group. You know, uh, let's see here. It's something else I do.
You're talking about if you do that side by side thing,
If you
right?
do the side by side, yes, yes.
How much time do you spend choosing literature? Please say a
Oh,
lot.
it is a lot. It. I'm
Yeah.
constantly thinking on music for next year, with the group and with the eighth grade coming up. It is a lot, and in fact, sometimes I think I use the example. I did Rough Riders March. I had not planned on doing that for CPA, but we got hit with Snowmageddon. And Carroll County got hit a little bit. We were gone a couple days longer than most groups because of our back roads. And
Mhm.
I had All West, and I'm involved with WTSBOA a lot, so I miss a little bit extra. And we did an honor band, and I just looked at the time and I said, okay, this is a little bit easier march that I know my group can handle. We can work on the basics, which, by the way, I'm an advocate of marches. Uh, I used to hate every
Mhm.
march possible, but they are a fantastic teaching tool. Um, Not the only teaching tool, but they are a fantastic one. And I had been looking at different marches and studying what my group could do, and I even sight read. I sight read one that was way too hard for the group. And I said, okay, I knew that was going to happen, but I wanted to see what they were made of, and it was a good gauge because I was on the right path. Um, I think constantly. Like I'm constantly thinking. One, I think there's several things I think about. I think about one, my group. I think about what all should the group be exposed to, and I try to do it in a 4 years cycle. They need to see some masterworks. They need to see some new stuff. I need to do a
Mhm.
little bit better about pop music. Some pop. I think that's important. Um, I will say this one time, and it was more of a spur of the moment. We took maybe 3 weeks and we put a little Disney program together for the primary school and played for them. So I didn't spend as much, but we'd look at a piece and be like, "Yep, this is too hard to work up. Let's find something easier." And but I
Yeah.
spend a lot, and I use. Some people say, "Well, it's too much," or they sit on my bookshelf too much. I think they are a fantastic option. Is the teaching music through performance. Because I open that up and it tells
Yes.
you what is so hard about it. Tells you what's hard about the piece, things you need to consider, trouble passages, uh, and it gives you the history of the work. And the kids need to know that too.
I think dangerous words for band directors are they'll get it by the concert.
Yes, that's. Ooh, I do not like. Yeah, if you're still working on notes, I would say if you're still working on notes, probably
Well,
two
there's no
weeks.
music. If
Yeah,
you're doing
yeah.
that, there's
There's
no
no music.
music, there's no elevated concepts, right? And
Yeah,
so, what I tell directors is pick music that's within your skill set the day you choose the music. Not at the end of the cycle, but like on the day one you're going to sight read. If they can't make it through the piece and it sound pretty good on day one, you're never going to get to the level of clarity that really gets the kids to play as a great ensemble. Now at the same time, you would do this because you do fundamentals all the time. You're really working them hard on fundamentals so that their skills are improving. And then when the next concert cycle rolls around, guess what? They're better musicians and you can pick harder music. But I don't think they really grow very much by choosing. There's a little bit of this motivation stuff, but they don't really grow as much through playing hard music as they do through being really thorough in training exercises. And then you use those
absolutely.
skills to play harder music the next time.
Yeah, and
What do you think
I
about that?
think
Am I wrong?
I think that's no. I think you're 100% right. I think I used the Armenian dances. We played that piece, and it was one of those pieces we played, and COVID happened, and then uh, we came back and tried again. We had the year where everybody was separated. We tried it, and it was woo. And then finally we got to do it. It's a different group, but I mentioned I knew we could do it because all the elements in there. I had great trumpet sounds. I had great clarinet sounds. I knew they could play that. I had a couple of hotshot saxophone players that I really didn't have to worry about the solo on, because if you do, well, that's something you got to fight.
Yep.
You're going to fight. And then the end with the fast woodwind passages. I said, kids, what can you identify what this looks like? And they're like, yeah, it's like a little scale. I'm like, yeah, there you go. You got that. So let's work it slow and build it up. Now I did have to work the 5/8, which you know I also do a little thing at the end where I let seniors
Most
pick
groups
any.
would.
Yeah, I let seniors pick any piece that we've played, and we will play it for them, and we'll work it class. And I got a kid. He's like, I'm picking Armenian dances. I said, oh Lord. All right, let me pull it out and start practicing. So,
That's funny.
yeah, it's funny. It's gonna be funny to watch me sweat for a minute. um, and then flex band. Everyone knows about flex band pieces. I would hope by now. Got to be a little bit careful with them because there are some that are hard, and you got to be smart when you uh, assign the parts. That's one you've got to think about your strengths. And believe it or not, there are some Sousa marches. If you go to the Marine website, that are kind of flex band just because of the time period they're written in. A lot of the parts are covered or doubled, and so you can get away with doing that. I did the Honored Dead. Uh, let's see, not this past CPA, but the CPA before. And it worked for us. I was very proud of the group. They got exposed to some good literature, and they got challenged, and they learned that you can play a song in G flat and D flat. uh, Maybe not my best, but I mean they did do it. It was nice. It was really cool. So I think music is definitely, especially and speaking on it from if you're going to say from a design point for marching band, you got to be careful. Choosing stuff that will sound. It may sound great on the radio, but will it sound well when your kids are playing it with a wind instrument? Just because you like it there, and it may not
Yes.
transcribe, especially if it's not arranged well. And I had a slide on there that talks about I may be able to play this piece this year, but next year due to instrumentation, I may have to say, what, let's hold off. Let's hold off a little bit and put this on the back burner. Maybe we need to see where we're at after our winter concert and reassess. I think you should always reassess too,
Yep.
your music. So, I studied a lot. I did a Percy Granger suite for CPA. I thought it fit my group well, and I had everything covered. Um, I mean, I just think I think you have to spend a lot of time, and I think I'm going to be honest with you. You got to talk to people about music because I don't know a lot of the pieces. Sometimes I call, and I may, I need to use you more as a reference. But I call John easily, and I'm like, hey man, I need some ideas for March, or I need ideas for a piece. That's, I hadn't done a lot in 6/8. I need a piece in 6/8 that, it's not all I've got. I feel like it's too hard. What do you have something here?
Yeah.
I think relying on people that have success in the fields, that have been around, that you trust, that you can get advice for. I think that's a huge asset, not only on literature but everything.
I love that you are constantly thinking about literature. I think that's so key, because you do kind of like, the older I got, the more I tried to have all that stuff in mind before the school year started. I'm going to try to, I think this is going to be what we're going to play at CPA. I think here's a list of 2 or 3 things that might go with that as the march or whatever. I think we can play this in the spring concert. Like, you start to really plan it out way in advance. And that gives you time to second guess yourself. That gives you time to reassess and to maybe find something that works a little bit better for your kids. Because, you said it in here, each ensemble from year to year is different. And sometimes even within the school year, they're different. And so
Absolutely.
if you start early, then you're giving yourself enough time to really get the right choice for your kids.
I will say, my first year, I was trying, be a salesman to the group here at Huntington, and I was like, all right, we're going to do some pieces that that I think you'll like, and I chose Star Wars. I was going to do a Star Wars arrangement, and it was the Robert W. Smith arrangement, and it is hard.
Oof, that's hard.
It's hard one. The trombone's got that, and I was just thinking, I will never play this again. And by the time, it was one of those times we had to say, I said, guys, if I'm sitting down, we're working today, because I like to stand up and move, and I got my chair. I said, guys, note by note, let's do this. And I try not to do that too much, but it was one of those I did not plan as well. I was trying to be a salesman and they wrote a check I couldn't cash at the moment. I think something else you got to think about too, with music, especially with modern music or electronics, and how they play. And I'm playing a piece that has it's called the Haunted Carousel, and it uses an iPad. It's very simple. That's a simple one that I think most people can do. I think for a small band program, electronics can be a very valuable asset, but you have to do it. You have to think about it. You have to You have to play the game smart, because they're scary. They can enhance your band from a marching aspect of it. And if you want, is it all right if we go this route right now? Sorry, are you good?
Yeah, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
I used to be anti-electronics. I'm like old school, yeah. And then I saw a show and I thought, this is really done well, and I really enjoy this, and they're doing it very tasteful. And there's several aspects to it. For a small band, they can really enhance, and they can really make your ensemble sound a lot larger. Synths, if you got a low number of brass players, a few low brass players, a synth with the right patch is can make your ensemble sound. I'm not going to say twice. It's going to make it sound significantly larger. And there are some concert pieces that Randall Sanders has some things out right now where he's using a lot of electronics that will make a small band sound a lot larger. Not that larger is better, but it gives you what you think you're missing. And I think this is pretty vital, and it's hard to do for your marching band program. It has to be treated as a different section of the group.
Yes.
It just has to. You got to have someone that knows what they're doing. You got to have someone that can be there when something goes wrong. Because I'm gonna tell you, it's hard to run a rehearsal and your electronics are not working. And you've got to be careful that the electronics don't overpower the band, which is so easy to do.
Yeah.
And I will do a plug to something that I've done. And I will try to never do it again, since I'm stating it on this podcast. If you're on a marching field, don't plug in your mics and stuff while it's on and hot. You'll get that pop, and there will be someone that comments on it, which they should. So electronics, we mentioned synths earlier, microphones. I mic the field. I was at a contest one time, and I consistently got the comment, we can't hear you at the press box. And it was a larger stadium. And I was like, okay, all right, we got to figure out how we're working. And I saw a picture, and we were the smallest band. We wasn't even half the size of some of those bands. And I thought, okay, I don't know what else I can do, because I'm not going to have them play with a bad sound. I'd rather get that sound and have a good. I'd rather get told I'm not playing loud enough and have a great sound than to blast and have terrible sounds. So we started miking the field. You can always go with a trusted. There's usually someone that's around, probably in the local community. Romeo Music's great. Amro's great. There's a website called pithacks.com that is fantastic. Uh, Great dude. But microphones they can add effects. They mic your field basically if you're using using it in that sense. And then something that we started using in 2019 was a mallet station. And we were playing a piece, and I was going to have to buy chorales, and chorales are expensive. And I believe it's Joe Davis. He said, "Why don't you look at a mallet station?" And we looked at it. And a mallet station, for those that don't know, it's electronic. It looks like a mallet instrument, flat surface, and you can change your lower notes, and you can play multiple instruments. You can have a crotale, vibe, timpani, guitar, string bass, anything with a click of a button. Now we use MainStage to run it, but it's $1,000, a lot cheaper than crotales, and I got more instruments, and I'm not tearing up my vibraphone on the field.
Yeah.
So it can give you a
gives
little bit more.
The whole electronics thing. It makes marching bands sound cinematic.
Absolutely, and we did a secret garden field show this past year, and throughout, I would have bird sounds playing, because I wanted people to feel like they were in a garden. And narration, I had someone that was neutral that just narrated and kind of tied it all together. The thing I would say about, other than having someone run it, is electronics can get expensive, but you want to do what's affordable, but you need to think about investing too, because cheaper is not always better. If your synth is a keyboard that doesn't change dynamics, it's your basic. It's probably not.
Gotta
It's
get a
the
pedal.
timbre. Yeah, the timbre's not going to match, and it's not going to blend well with your band. The first great system we bought was a used system, and it was great. We still use the speakers from it. It's fantastic, So electronics, I think, especially on the marching side, is a very viable option for small band programs.
Benjamin, you've also got a slide in here about rehearsal suggestions. Can you take us through some of what you suggest?
Yeah. Small reps. You got to be repping the music all the time. And by that, you don't run the music, you run sections, and you run things that are specific. It may be, if you're playing a ballad and you're having intonation issues, let's check this out. Well, it's not the notes everybody's playing. Maybe we're having vertical alignment issues. Let's do small reps, boom, get it lined up, everybody bop it, boom. And you want to keep the pacing quick. And by that, to do that, when you explain it, keep it simple. Sometimes you have to take time for bigger concepts, but in general, most of the time, just touch and go. Reinforce it every day. If you're talking more than you're repping, they won't get the music underneath your fingers, and that's very crucial. I think sometimes we try to I don't want to say over educate, but we go a little bit too methodical, and you do a couple things, you lose people, especially if you stop and say, all right, you need to do this, 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 this. Okay, in this group you need to do this, this, this. This group you need to do this. Oh, well, you just lost the first group. They're not going to remember.
Yeah.
So
just say one thing and take the time you would have taken in giving all that extra feedback, and just do a bunch more reps on that one thing, and it'll stick much more likely than if you give 3 levels of feedback in this.
I use simple instructions. I was student teaching, and 8th grade, we're learning syncopation, and I gave this nice long college definition, and we went to do it, and I bombed hard. I felt so bad. Came after class. It was John Easley. He was my mentor for student teaching. And he said, look, too hard of a definition. Short, long, short, long, keep it simple. Next day we went
Yeah.
and did it. Boom, just like that. It was like, oh, that makes sense. um,
Yep.
so keeping it simple.
And this could be a
Yeah.
fun game for kids too. When Jacob Campos came to Franklin back in 2014, Jacob's a little bit long-winded at the time, and I don't feel at all bad about saying this. And so I threatened him with giving him a word bank. I was only going to let him say like 8 words, shorter, faster, slower, whatever, a little longer, shorter. I was only going to he could only say like 8 words, period. Because we don't need it to be explained to us. I just need to know if it needs to go shorter or longer. So that would have been beneficial. But also, like, you can also, if you catch yourself talking too much, just make your first chair clarinet player time you. Just say, I only get 7 seconds to give feedback. And that kid will actually, I wouldn't pick my first chair clarinet player. I'd pick the kid in the band that pays attention the least and put them
Yes.
on stopwatch duty, because that kid will pay attention in that rehearsal. And after 7 seconds, they will love to raise their hand and yell at you for talking too much. And that kid suddenly
that's a great idea.
has found a good place in rehearsal.
I learned something tonight. That's awesome. I also think you have to plan. We hear people winging it, and there's some people do. I'm not going to say I've never, done that, but I have some plan every day. Now, it may be
Yeah.
on a sticky note. I'm the type of person, when I see these huge formal lesson plans, I don't do well with it. I mean, I can do it, I can read down it, but for me, I'm like, this is what I need to do. Here are the little concepts I'm working. Boom. And you need to be
Yeah.
prepared to deviate. There are some days I go in, I'm like, all right, I know we need to hit this section, do that. We play it. I'm like, that was really good. Can we do it a couple more times just to see where it's at? Okay, let's move on to another thing here. We're ahead of schedule,
Yeah.
guys. Good job. And I'm a big fan, especially the closer you get, touch your concert music, all of it. All of it,
Yeah.
You shouldn't be just playing 1 or 2 songs if you got 5 songs on your concert.
I'm with you on this, man. I saw Lowell Graham do this at an honor band. He had a standard honor band thing. He had Thursday night, all day rehearsal Friday, and then concert Saturday. And at the end of every rehearsal, he did a full concert run. So he would always plan, okay, I've got 30 minutes at the end of rehearsal. I'm going to run the whole program. Because the kids need to know what it's like to play the whole thing at once.
Yeah.
It's a mental drain. They have to be engaged for that period of time. So you're teaching them what it's like to be engaged for that long.
Absolutely. And I think this is something that everyone should do, large or small. Record and send it to people you trust. Send it to the trusted educators and mentors, whether it's a former adjudicator and or a mentor or someone that's retired, just someone or that's got a great program. Hey, you're doing this well. I need to know what you're doing. Can you give me some feedback on this? Record it, even if it's the worst device to record on. Do that and send it to them and get feedback, and then try what they suggest. People. I think Tennessee, in all aspects, as far as adjudication, is moving in the right way. As far as you're getting quality adjudication and quality comments, are you going to fix it, or are you just going to say that's their opinion? Look at it and try it. They're successful.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to be successful too. So I just think that's a great thing to do. As far as rehearsal, those things will, I think, fundamentals, reps, touching everything. I think all these things are quality, not only for small bands, but for large bands too, but for small bands particularly, that way it's no excuses.
Yep.
So.
Yep. No excuses. I like that. That's a good way to finish.
Yeah.
Well, Benjamin, thank you so much for coming on. This has been great information, and I hope folks can reach out to you if they have questions. Do you have an email address?
Yeah.
At Huntingdon that they can hit you with?
Yeah. B as in Benjamin, Martin, Martin, at Huntingdon, Hunting, D as in David, ON. Just make sure spell check doesn't mess that up. bmartin at huntingtonschools.net. I'll be glad to answer any questions or, listen to any groups or, I think all the, any way I can help, because I feel like we all need to kind of help each other and pitch in and, be an asset, buddy. So.
Yep. Well, you're doing a great job over there,
Thank you.
and I always look forward to seeing your group. And I want people across the state to know about Benjamin Martin at Huntingdon
Thank you.
because you're doing the work that deserves to be known. So
Thank you. I
thanks so
appreciate
much for
that.
coming on. Thanks for listening to Bandstand. Bandstand's mission is to build a stronger, more unified band community in Tennessee by fostering meaningful conversations about the past, present, and future of school bands in our state. If you have topic suggestions or need to get in touch with us, email us at tbabandstandpodcast@gmail.com. Your input is important to us, and if you have a topic you'd like us to discuss about the past, present, or future of Tennessee bands, please let us know. Again, that email is tbabandstandpodcast@gmail.com. Right now we're broadcasting on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts, so please subscribe, review, and rate. Box 5, please. And if you find something interesting or helpful, please share this podcast with your friends. Bandstand is proud to be sponsored by Music for All and Romeo Music. See you next time.